The wind howled through the narrow streets of the small colony on the edge of the desert world, dust and sand swirling in the cold night air. Inside a modest house, Cale sat quietly at the table, his 2 daughters asleep upstairs, the soft hum of the heater the only sound keeping the shadows at bay. Life had been lonely since his wife passed away, but he had learned to live with the quiet, filling his days with work and care for his girls. Arya and Lila, they were all he had left, and he would do anything to keep them safe. A sudden knock on the door made him freeze. The sound was sharp against the howling wind. 3 quick raps, then silence. Cale frowned. It was late, too late for visitors. He wondered if someone was in trouble. His mind raced. Could it be a traveler lost in the storm? A thief or something worse? Another knock came, this time louder, desperate. Echoing through the small house, he stood slowly, feeling the weight of caution and curiosity clash inside him. He approached the door, peering through the small window. Shadows danced in the dim light, and he saw her, a figure huddled against the storm, tall and slender, with strange blue skin that shimmered faintly under the flickering light of the street lamp. Her clothes were torn, barely covering her, and her eyes, large and luminous, held a fear that tugged at his heart. She lifted her hand slightly, knocking again, softer this time, almost pleading. Kyle's mind fought between fear and empathy. He had heard rumors of alien outcasts wandering near the colony, some harmless, others dangerous. His fingers tightened around the door handle, the storm outside making a low, menacing howl, yet there was something in her eyes, a silent cry for help, a fragility that stirred something he had not felt in years. He hesitated, then slowly opened the door, the cold wind rushing in, carrying with it the scent of dust and rain. The alien woman stumbled slightly as she entered, and Cale instinctively reached out, steadying her. "Are you hurt?" he asked, his voice low, cautious. She nodded weakly, words failing her at first, her breathing shallow, and she pointed to her side, where a dark stain marked her torn tunic. Cale's heart sank. He quickly guided her to the chair by the heater, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders, his daughters peeking nervously from the stairs. Curiosity and fear mirrored in their young faces. "What happened to you?" Cale asked. Kneeling beside her, his eyes scanning her for injuries, she finally spoke, her voice soft, almost a whisper. I was chased. They do not want me to live. I had nowhere to go. Please shelter me." The words carried a weight of desperation that made Cale's chest tighten. He could feel the storm inside her heart, the terror and exhaustion, yet also a quiet strength, a survival instinct that refused to break. He nodded slowly, glancing at his daughters, who had come down now, their wide eyes fixed on the stranger. Arya whispered, "Daddy, she is scared." Lila clung to Cale's sleeve, and he realized they had sensed her fear, their empathy reminding him of his own. He looked back at the alien woman, her gaze meeting his, and for a moment, the storm outside seemed to fade, replaced by a fragile silence that held possibility and danger together. Kyle spoke firmly. "You can stay tonight, but we must be careful. I do not know who is after you, or what might come for you, but under this roof, you are safe for now." Relief washed over her face, and she bowed her head slightly, gratitude shining in her strange, luminous eyes. Cale felt an unfamiliar warmth in his chest, the beginning of a connection, fragile yet real. The wind outside rattled the windows, reminding him that danger was still near. But the house felt a little brighter, a little less empty. The alien woman settled by the fire, carefully adjusting the blanket around her. Cale prepared hot water and simple food, his daughters creeping closer, curiosity overcoming fear. They offered her small gestures of kindness, a shared smile, a tentative question, and she responded with quiet nods, her voice still soft, broken, but grateful. The storm outside continued its rage, yet inside a fragile calm began to grow, threads of trust weaving slowly between human and alien. As the night deepened, Cale could not shake the feeling that this encounter was no coincidence. That fate had brought her to his door for a reason. Questions lingered in his mind. Who was she running from? Why did she come to him? And could he protect her and his daughters at the same time? The storm howled on, carrying with it the promise of danger, adventure, and change. The first night together had begun, a night that would alter their lives forever. And outside, in the shadows, eyes watched the small house, calculating, waiting, and the air seemed to hold its breath. The unexpected visitor had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same. The storm finally began to fade, leaving the desert world wet and glistening under the pale light of distant moons. Inside the small house, Cale moved quietly, Making sure his daughters were settled back in their room. Arya and Lila whispered to each other, curiosity and excitement dancing in their voices. He could hear the soft hum of the heater filling the empty spaces, but the alien woman still sat by the fire, her eyes scanning the room, alert, cautious, as if she could sense things humans could not. Kale studied her carefully, noticing small details he had missed before. The way her fingers twitched slightly, the faint scars along her neck, the way her eyes flicked toward the shadows in the corners of the room. She was hiding something, yet she was also tired. Exhausted and in need of trust, he decided to give her space. Knowing that fear could not be forced away, she had to feel it on her own. "You can rest now," Kale said softly. Placing a cup of warm tea near her hand, she nodded, her lips barely moving, her voice soft and foreign. "Thank you for letting me stay." There was honesty in her words, yet also hesitation, as if every word she spoke could carry danger. Kyle felt the weight of her past pressing on the room, silent but heavy, a story waiting to unfold. The girls, drawn by curiosity, crept down the stairs again, peeking from behind the doorway. Arya whispered, "Daddy, can we talk to her?" Kale shook his head slightly. "Not yet, she needs time. And we need to be careful." The alien woman noticed them anyway, her luminous eyes softening, a faint smile appearing as she waved gently. The children's fear eased slightly, yet they sensed the tension lingering like a shadow over the household. Hours passed quietly, the storm outside leaving small puddles in the yard. Inside, the alien woman began to move with purpose, cleaning and organizing small things in the house, her movements graceful but cautious. Kale noticed her hands, delicate but strong, capable of both creation and defense. He wondered what her life had been like before she came here. The secrets she carried, the enemies that followed. Suddenly, a soft sound made him tense, a tapping at the window. Subtle but deliberate. The alien woman froze, eyes widening. Kale felt a shiver run down his spine. "Who is it?" he asked quietly. She shook her head. "No. You must not look." The urgency in her voice was clear, yet he could not ignore it. He stepped closer, seeing only the dark silhouettes of desert rocks swaying in the faint moonlight. But the sense of being watched did not fade. The alien woman's story began to emerge slowly, in fragments, while Kale prepared a small meal for the girls. She spoke softly, her words carefully chosen. "I was cast out, my people. They do not forgive mistakes. They believe I betrayed them. I ran. I had nowhere. I only wished to survive." Kale's chest tightened. He felt the danger in her words, the weight of exile, and yet the humanity in her desire to live. The girls listened from the next room, whispering quietly, their imaginations painting vivid pictures of the unknown, even as they ate. Kale could not shake the feeling that shadows lingered just beyond the walls. Every creak of the house, every sigh of the wind seemed amplified. The alien woman flinched at each sound, her body tense, ready as if expecting attack at any moment. Kale realized she had been on constant alert for so long that relaxation was foreign to her. He wanted to offer comfort, but he knew that patience was necessary. Trust could not be forced. Night deepened, and the first real connection began to form. The alien woman shared a story from her childhood, a brief memory of a friend lost long ago, her voice trembling slightly, and Kyle felt a pang of empathy. He saw not only fear but resilience, intelligence and courage shining through. It was clear she could survive, and perhaps she could also protect his daughters if needed. The thought both comforted and worried him. A sudden knock, softer this time, echoed through the house. Kale froze. The alien woman stiffened. "They are close. You must hide them," she whispered urgently. His daughters clutched each other upstairs, heartbeats loud in the silence. Kale nodded, feeling the tension rise like a storm inside the walls. He led her to the small storage room, a space used for supplies, closing the door quietly. The sound of footsteps outside the house sent chills through him. Minutes passed like hours, every shadow seemed alive. The wind outside now carrying whispers. Kale's mind raced. Who were they? What did they want? Could he protect them all? The alien woman peeked through a small vent, eyes narrowing, assessing the danger. Kale realized that this night was only the beginning. The real threat was yet to come, and every second was precious. Finally, the footsteps retreated. Leaving a heavy silence, Kyle exhaled slowly. The alien woman stepped out, her hand steady but her expression wary. "You helped them," she said softly. Referring to his daughters, "You helped me," Kale nodded, realizing that this fragile trust, built in a few short hours, could be the foundation of something greater, something dangerous yet hopeful. Outside, shadows moved, waiting, watching, and inside, a quiet understanding settled. They were together for now, bound by circumstance, necessity, and the fragile thread of trust. The story had begun, secrets were revealed, and the danger in the shadows would not wait long to strike. The morning light crept softly through the small windows of Cale's house. Painting the walls in pale gold, the storm had passed, leaving the desert world quiet and empty. Yet inside, a new energy hummed, fragile but growing. Cale moved through the kitchen, preparing a simple breakfast of warm bread and tea for his daughters and the alien woman. Arya and Lila peeked from the doorway, their eyes bright with curiosity. The air felt different, lighter but still cautious. The alien woman had remained quiet since the night of her arrival. Observing, learning, and slowly letting the tension in her shoulders fade, Cale noticed small details. The way she studied the simple tools in his kitchen, the way her fingers lingered on objects, touching them as if discovering them for the first time. There was wonder in her movements, a gentle curiosity that reminded him of his daughter's wide-eyed fascination with the world. "Do you like tea?" Cale asked gently, placing a steaming cup near her hands. She looked at it, then smiled faintly, a small human gesture that made his chest tighten. "I have not tasted anything like this," she whispered, and he felt a spark of connection, the first real thread of trust forming between them. His daughters crept closer. Arya asked, "Can we help her?" Cale nodded, and Lila shyly offered her a slice of bread. The alien woman accepted it with hesitation, then gratitude, a warmth spreading in the room. As breakfast continued, Cale tried to speak gently about mundane things. The colony, the weather, simple routines, yet the alien woman's eyes held memories that were darker, hints of fear and exile he did not press. Instead, he allowed silence to fill the spaces, understanding that words could not force trust. It had to grow, like a plant in a harsh desert, nurtured slowly with patience. The girls slowly warmed to her presence, asking questions about her life. About the world she came from, she answered carefully, fragments of her story spilling out like scattered stars. "I lived far from here, my people. They do not accept me. I was alone." Cale felt the weight in her words, the pain of exile. Yet he also felt pride, a quiet strength shining through. She was alive, clever, and determined, capable of more than mere survival. By mid-morning, she began helping around the house, small tasks at first, picking up dishes, sweeping the floor, arranging utensils, her movements careful, almost hesitant, yet gradually more confident. Cale noticed how naturally she adapted, her alien grace making even mundane chores seem elegant. His daughters giggled as she tried to imitate their small rituals, and she laughed softly, a sound like wind chimes. Bringing light into the home, the bond grew slowly. With small acts, shared smiles, and cautious conversation, Cale found himself drawn to her presence, the way she moved, the way she considered each action before doing it. Her silence was thoughtful, not empty, and he began to trust her, to hope that perhaps she could be more than just a guest. Perhaps she could be part of their fragile family. The idea filled him with both excitement and fear. Afternoon brought tension as strange noises echoed outside. The desert world never truly silent. The alien woman's ears twitched, her eyes narrowing. Scanning the shadows beyond the windows, Cale felt a shiver. The danger from her past still lurked nearby, yet she stood, silent, ready, showing him that courage was not only in humans, that strength could take many forms, and that together, they could protect his daughters. A sudden thud outside made them jump. Cale grabbed a small tool from the table, ready to defend his home. The alien woman moved with astonishing speed, checking the doors and windows, her senses sharp, attuned to things humans could not perceive. He realized just how capable she was, how much he could rely on her if the threat came closer. Yet he also realized the weight of responsibility. Trusting her meant risking everything. By evening, a quiet calm settled in. The storm of the night had passed, and so had the tension of the day. Cale's daughters played quietly near the alien woman, their laughter ringing through the house. She smiled softly at their innocence, and he noticed a change in her posture, a small easing of the fear that had dominated her since arrival. A bond was forming, delicate and fragile but real, a connection that neither time nor danger could ignore. Cale watched them, feeling a strange warmth in his chest, a mix of relief, admiration, and hope. This alien woman, an outcast, a stranger, was slowly becoming part of their lives. He wondered if she could stay, if she could help him rebuild what had been broken since his wife passed. The idea of a family, Complete and united seemed possible for the first time in years. Night came and the house grew still. The alien woman sat by the heater, watching the girls sleep, Kale beside her, quietly contemplating the future. Outside, shadows moved, still watching, still waiting, but inside, a bond had been formed. Threads of trust and care weaving together, fragile, yes, but strong enough to face the dangers ahead. The first true connection had been made between human, alien, and daughters, and it was a bond that would shape the days to come. A bond tested by fear, strengthened by kindness, and full of hope. The morning sun rose slowly over the desert horizon, casting long shadows across Kale's small house. The air was dry but calm, a stark contrast to the storm that had brought the alien woman to his door. Inside, Kale moved quietly, preparing breakfast. But his mind was elsewhere, thinking of her, the stranger who had quietly become part of their lives. There was a tension beneath the calm, a story hidden behind her luminous eyes, one he could not ignore. Over the table, Kale placed a cup of warm tea before her, and she accepted it with a nod, her hands trembling slightly. He noticed the subtle scars along her arms, the faint bruises on her neck, signs of a life lived under danger. Curiosity and concern wrestled within him. He wanted to know, yet feared what he might hear. The silence stretched, heavy with unspoken words, and then she spoke, voice low, hesitant. "I am not from here," she began, glancing away, avoiding Kale's gaze. "My people, they cast me out, accused me of betrayal, of something I did not do. I ran. I had nowhere to go." Kale listened carefully, sensing the fear and shame behind her words, the weight of exile pressing down like a heavy stone. "They hunted me. Those I trusted turned against me. I survived by hiding, moving, never staying too long. Always alone." She paused, taking a deep breath, the pain in her eyes clear. Kale reached out, placing a hand on hers gently. "You are safe here for now. We will protect you." She looked at him, a flicker of hope breaking through the fear. Yet the tension remained. She had survived alone for so long that trust did not come easily. The past clung to her like shadows, ready to pull her back into danger at any moment. As she spoke, the girl sat nearby, silent. Sensing the seriousness of her words, Arya whispered to Lila. "She has been through so much," Lila nodded, eyes wide, gripping her sister's hand. Kale felt a pang in his chest. The reality of the threat to his daughters was now sharper. The woman before him was not just fragile, she was a survivor, capable of navigating dangers humans could barely imagine. She told them of her home world, a place of strict rules and harsh punishments, where mistakes were unforgivable, and betrayal, real or imagined, led to exile or death. Her people were proud, rigid and unyielding. She had been falsely accused of stealing knowledge, of breaking sacred codes, and when she refused to confess to crimes she did not commit, they had hunted her, leaving her with nothing but the clothes on her back and the instinct to survive. Kyle felt a mixture of anger and sorrow, imagining a world so cruel, so unyielding, yet he also saw the resilience in her eyes, the same strength that had carried her across the desert, through storms and finally to his door. He realized that danger was not only in the physical world but in the shadows of her past, threats that could reach even here if they were discovered. The alien woman's voice grew softer, almost a whisper. "I feared I would never find safety, never find anyone who would care, never be allowed to rest." She looked at Kale and then at his daughters, a mixture of longing and fear in her gaze. Kale understood she did not just need shelter, she needed trust, belonging, and a chance to be more than a hunted exile. Kale's heart tightened, the weight of responsibility pressing down. He had already grown fond of her. The girls had too, yet he understood that welcoming her into their lives meant inviting danger, enemies that might follow her, and consequences he could not yet foresee. He knew he could not turn away. Not now, not ever. The bond forming between them had already begun to change the household and perhaps change him. Suddenly, a distant sound carried across the desert, faint but deliberate, a reminder that her past was never far behind. She stiffened, listening, eyes narrowing. Kale sensed her tension, the memories of chase and fear flooding back. The reality of the threat became tangible again. He moved closer, placing a protective hand on her shoulder. "We will face this together," he whispered, and she gave a small nod, a flicker of trust finally visible. The afternoon passed with quiet conversations, small acts of care, and moments of laughter as the girls asked her questions about her world, about strange foods and animals, about places Kale could barely imagine. she answered carefully, smiling at their curiosity, revealing only fragments, but enough to make the girls giggle and Cale feel a spark of hope. The storm of the past was not over, yet a fragile calm began to grow. Night approached, and the alien woman sat by the heater, her thoughts still lingering on the horrors she had escaped. Yet for the first time, a sense of safety settled over her. Cale watched silently, understanding that the past would not disappear. But here under this roof, trust and hope could grow. Bonds were forming, and perhaps a family could be built from fear, courage, and compassion. Outside, the desert night was still and quiet, but Cale knew the shadows of her past were never far. They would return, testing their trust, their bond, and their courage. Yet for now, the alien woman had revealed her secrets, and in that revelation, the first threads of understanding, empathy, and hope were woven between human, alien, and daughters. The desert world was quiet, the evening sky painted in hues of orange and violet, casting long shadows across the small house where Cale lived with his daughters. Inside, the alien woman moved quietly, helping prepare a simple dinner. Her hands careful, precise, yet there was a softness now in her movements, a growing comfort in the presence of Cale and his daughters. She still carried the weight of her past, but here, she was beginning to breathe, to relax, to hope. Cale watched her from across the table, his mind heavy with thought. The day had been full of small moments that revealed her strength, her kindness, and the natural bond forming with Arya and Lila. He realized that his daughters, who had been lonely and frightened after the loss of their mother, had found a protector, a guide, and perhaps even a mother in her, a thought both comforting and terrifying. He cleared his throat, feeling the words weigh heavily on him. I need to say something, he began. His voice steady but quiet. She looked up, her luminous eyes attentive, curious, yet cautious. You have been through so much, and I cannot imagine the horrors you have faced. But you have also brought light to this house, to my daughters, to me. He paused, searching for the right words, his heart pounding. Cale's daughters, sensing the seriousness of his tone, looked at him with wide eyes. Arya whispered, "Daddy, what is it?" Lila clung to her sister's sleeve, the moment tense yet filled with hope. He took a deep breath, choosing his words carefully. I know you have been hurt, and I know you fear trust, yet I cannot imagine this house without you. My daughters cannot imagine it without you, and neither can I. His voice softened, yet held determination. The alien woman's eyes widened slightly, a mixture of surprise and hesitation crossing her face. She had expected kindness, protection, even friendship, but not this. The notion of belonging, of being wanted, was almost foreign. Her past had taught her that attachment meant pain, yet here, in this small home, she felt something she had not felt in years: hope, warmth, and the possibility of family. Cale continued, gathering courage. I do not know what tomorrow brings, or what dangers follow you, but I know this. I need you here not just as a guest, not just as a protector, but as the mother of my daughters, someone who belongs with us, someone who can help us face what comes, together. His voice grew firmer, honest. The weight of his heart in every word. The room seemed to hold its breath, the girls silent, waiting for her response. The alien woman swallowed, her hands trembling slightly as she held the cup of tea. She had been trained to survive alone, to trust no one. Yet here was a human, a widower with 2 young daughters, offering her a place in their lives, offering her family safety and love. The notion was frightening, yet a small warmth blossomed in her chest, a spark she thought had been extinguished long ago. I am not sure I know how to belong, she whispered. Voice trembling, Cale reached out gently, placing his hand over hers. Belonging is not easy, and it is never without fear, but it is worth it, he said softly, his eyes never leaving hers. The girls leaned closer, sensing the importance of this moment. Arya whispered, Please say yes. Lila nodded. Tiny hands folded in hope. A long silence followed, filled with the quiet hum of the heater and the distant whisper of the desert wind. Finally, the alien woman's lips curved into a small, hesitant smile. I will try, she said softly, and Cale felt a surge of relief and joy. A promise had been made, fragile but real. The first step toward a family, toward trust, toward hope. Cale smiled, warmth flooding his chest. That is all I ask. That we try together. The daughters squealed softly in delight. Running to hug her, she laughed, a sound like soft chimes, awkward at first but growing more natural. The tension of the past day melted slightly, replaced by the fragile comfort of connection. Outside, the desert night was still, stars twinkling faintly in the dark sky. Yet Kale knew the threats from her past had not disappeared. Danger could arrive at any moment, but for now, in this small house, trust had been formed, hope had been planted, and the bond between human, alien, and daughters had deepened. A family in the making. The alien woman sat quietly, letting the warmth of the house and the girls' laughter fill her with a sense of peace she had not known in years. Kale watched her, knowing that this proposal was more than words. It was a commitment, a bridge between fear and belonging, and the first step toward facing the dangers that were still waiting beyond the walls of their home. The desert night was alive with shadows, wind carrying whispers across the rocks and dunes. Inside Kale's small house, a fragile calm had settled. Yet tension hung thick in the air. Kale sat near the heater, watching his daughters asleep in their room. The alien woman moved quietly through the house, her eyes sharp, scanning every corner, listening for sounds humans could barely hear. The bond they had formed was growing, yet the danger from her past was closing in, silent but deadly. Suddenly, a faint sound reached them from outside. A low, deliberate tapping. Kale froze, his heart pounding. The alien woman stiffened, muscles taut, eyes narrowing as she approached the window, peering through the faint moonlight. "They are near," she whispered, voice low, almost trembling, yet controlled. Kale felt a chill run down his spine. The threat they had been fearing had arrived, and it was closer than ever. The alien woman moved with remarkable speed, checking each door and window, her movements precise and purposeful. Kyle grabbed a small tool from the table, ready to defend his home if necessary. The daughters stirred in their sleep. Sensing tension in the air, he whispered, "Stay quiet, stay hidden." His voice calm but firm, the gravity of the moment pressing down on him. He realized that protecting them all would require courage, trust, and careful planning. A shadow moved near the edge of the property, and Kale caught a glimpse of figures, strange and alien, moving silently, almost like predators. The alien woman's eyes glowed faintly in the dark, her senses heightened. She whispered instructions, guiding Kale through a silent plan. "We must keep them away from the girls. You distract them here, I will guard the exits." Kale nodded, understanding that this night would test them all in ways they had not imagined. The first figure approached the door, a blur of motion in the moonlight. Kyle slammed the tool against the wall, creating a loud noise, drawing attention, and the alien woman acted immediately. Moving to the window, her body fluid and strong, she blocked the intruder's vision, making them hesitate, then retreated into the shadows, disappearing almost like a phantom. Kale felt a surge of admiration and relief. Her skill was unmatched and their survival depended on it. Minutes stretched like hours, each sound amplified. Every movement outside a potential threat. The alien woman's focus never wavered, eyes darting, ears tuned to the slightest noise. Kale's heart raced, yet he felt a strange confidence, knowing that together they could face this. The trust and courage were their greatest weapons. The daughters slept peacefully upstairs, unaware of the battle unfolding in silence around them. A sudden crash echoed from the back of the house. Kale's hand tightened on the tool, ready to move. The alien woman signaled him, and they both moved strategically, blocking entry points, guiding the intruders away. Her knowledge of their tactics was clear. She had faced them before, survived attacks like this countless times, and yet, now she was fighting not only for herself but for his daughters, for the fragile family forming within these walls. The figures outside hesitated, frustrated, scanning the area, their movements careful yet cautious. They did not expect resistance from a human and a lone alien woman. The alien woman's presence was commanding, her aura of strength and alertness keeping them at bay. Kale realized that this night was a turning point. They were no longer just survivors. They were defenders bound by trust, courage, and necessity. Hours passed, the night stretching endlessly, but slowly, the intruders retreated, frustrated by the unexpected resistance. The alien woman watched their movements until the shadows disappeared completely into the desert. Only then did she relax slightly, her shoulders lowering, a quiet sigh escaping her lips. Kale approached, placing a steady hand on her arm. "You saved us all," he said softly, voice filled with gratitude and awe. She nodded, a small smile touching her lips. The storm of the past day had returned in a different form. Danger had come close, yet they had survived, stronger together. The daughters woke briefly, sensing the calm had returned, and ran to hug them both, laughter and relief blending in the small kitchen. Kale looked at the alien woman, seeing not only the survivor but a protector, a mother figure, someone who could face the dangers of the desert world alongside him. Night deepened, silence returning. But the memory of the threats remained, a reminder that the past was never far. Yet inside the small house, trust, courage, and a fragile bond had been tested and strengthened. The family they were forming had survived its first real trial, and the alien woman, once hunted and alone, now had a place where she belonged, at least for tonight and perhaps for many nights to come. The first light of dawn crept over the desert horizon, painting the small house in soft shades of gold and rose. The night had been long and filled with fear, yet inside, a fragile calm now hung in the air. Cale stood by the window, watching the empty desert, his mind still racing from the dangers that had come so close. The alien woman sat nearby, her posture relaxed but alert, ready to face whatever remained. The girls stirred in their sleep. Finally waking to the warmth of a new day, Cale turned to her, voice quiet but steady. "Last night showed me we can face anything together." She nodded, eyes meeting his, silent understanding passing between them. The bond they had built over the storm, the shared fear, and the small moments of care had grown into something deeper, stronger and unbreakable. It was no longer just survival. It was family. Trust and hope intertwined. Suddenly a faint rumble echoed across the desert, a reminder that threats were never far. Yet this time they were ready. Cale, the alien woman, and his daughters moved together, each taking positions instinctively, not out of fear alone but out of shared courage. The alien woman's luminous eyes glowed faintly, scanning the horizon while Cale held a small tool, and the daughters stayed safely behind, learning silently how strength could be quiet yet firm. The intruders appeared again, cautious and calculating. Yet the household was prepared, a defensive unity formed from trust and necessity. Cale moved forward, following the alien woman's careful instructions. Together they outmaneuvered the attackers, guiding them away from the house, using the desert terrain and the shadows to their advantage. Her knowledge of tactics and his quick thinking made them a formidable pair, a family forged in the fires of challenge. As the intruders finally retreated, frustration evident in their movements, Cale exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of the night lift slightly. The alien woman's shoulders relaxed, and for the first time in years she smiled without hesitation, a genuine warmth filling the room. His daughters ran to her, embracing her tightly. Laughter ringing through the house, the bond was no longer fragile, it was alive. Resilient and unbroken, Cale watched them, pride and gratitude swelling in his chest. He realized the proposal he had made, asking her to stay as the mother of his daughters, had grown into something real, tangible and beautiful. She had accepted not just a role, but a life intertwined with theirs, a life of trust, protection, and shared joy. The danger of the desert world had tested them, but it had also strengthened the ties that bound them. The alien woman looked at Cale, her eyes reflecting both fear and hope. I never thought I could belong. Never thought I could trust," she whispered, voice soft but steady. Cale shook his head, smiling. "You belong here with us, and you always will." The girls cheered softly, running between them, and for the first time, she allowed herself to believe it, to imagine a future where safety, love, and family were real. The morning passed with small moments of peace, shared food, and quiet laughter. Cale and the alien woman prepared the house together, teaching the daughters small tasks, exchanging smiles, and sometimes just sitting in silence, appreciating the calm. The sense of home that had been built from fear, trust, and courage. Every action, every gesture deepened their bond and created a rhythm of life that was simple yet meaningful. As the sun climbed higher, Cale stepped outside, looking at the vast desert stretching endlessly. He knew challenges would come again, that the alien woman's past and enemies might return. Yet he also knew that together they could face them, stronger as a family bonded by loyalty, compassion, and courage. The daughters laughed behind him, chasing small creatures that scuttled across the sand. The alien woman's laughter joined theirs, light and free, a sound that promised hope by evening. The house glowed with warmth and life. The alien woman had finally let her guard down completely, sitting by the fire with the daughters on either side, Cale beside her, all three hands intertwined, forming a circle of trust and love. The past was still there, a shadow in the distance, but it no longer controlled them. Together they had faced danger, embraced hope,
and built a family that could survive anything.
The night came, quiet and calm, the stars shining brightly above the desert. Cale looked at the alien woman and whispered, "This is our home, our family." She nodded, smiling softly. The girls asleep, dreaming peacefully, and for the first time, She allowed herself to believe in the future, a future filled with safety, laughter, and belonging. The journey had been long, but the bonds of trust, courage, and love had carried them to this moment. A new family, a new beginning, and a hope that nothing could break outside. The desert wind whispered through the rocks, but inside, warmth, laughter, and trust held strong. The alien woman was no longer alone. Kale's daughters were no longer motherless, and Kale himself was no longer lonely. Together they faced the unknown, ready to build a life full of hope, courage, and HFY spirit. A family forged through fear, strengthened by trust and bound forever by love.